Under a merciless February night, the ice storm howled like an ancient curse unleashed. Black highways stretched into endless darkness or pierced only by the weak beams of a lone Audi fighting through slashing sleet. Inside, a woman gripped the wheel with white-knuckled hands, eyes burning from 36 hours. Without sleep, her soul hollowed out by too many victories that meant nothing. Then her headlights caught him. A colossal figure standing motionless on the shoulder of the road, a mountain of a man wrapped in heavy canvas, rain and ice pouring over him. For one heartbeat, his eyes caught the light and burned amber, glowing with something feral, something inhuman. Brakes screamed. The car fishtailed violently. When his massive hand clamped around her wrist and razor-sharp fangs sank into her flesh. Liquid fire exploded through her veins. Not poison, not death, a bond. A savage, unbreakable chain awakening between the cold, calculated world she knew and the wild, forgotten blood sleeping inside her. Somewhere in the pitch-black forest ahead, ancient fears stirred, a prophecy whispered, and her blood had just answered the call. Camille Morrison gripped the leather wheel of her Audi. 2:47 a.m. February. Ice storm. She was exhausted, freezing, and currently losing $300 an hour driving down this godforsaken highway. The heater blasted air that smelled like burnt plastic. Her phone sat in the cup holder. 47 unread emails, 11 voicemails, a text from her assistant. They're asking for you. They were always asking. Because Camille was the youngest equity partner at Hartwell & Associates, 92% win rate in bankruptcy court, and she didn't cry when she won. Not anymore. The wipers scraped across glass, back and forth. Hypnotic, her eyes burned. 36 hours without sleep. The Brennan case had closed that morning. 87-year-old furniture company. Fourth-generation family business. The owner had cried in the courtroom. Real tears. The kind that made his shoulders shake. Camille had won. $50,000 fee. She felt nothing, which was exactly the problem. 6 months ago, her mother died in a hospice bed that smelled like bleach and old flowers. The morphine made her delirious. She kept calling Camille by her middle name, Lorelei, over and over. Lorelei, baby, listen to me. Her mother's hand was cold, kin papery. Camille held it anyway. Find where you belong, not where you succeed. Then the monitor started beeping. The nurses rushed in, her mother was gone. Camille hadn't cried at the funeral either. Black Armani suit, shook hands, accepted condolences. Back to work the next day. Because grief was inefficient, and Camille Morrison did not do inefficient. Except now she was driving through an ice storm at 3 in the morning to a deposition that could have been rescheduled, that her associate could have handled. But her apartment was too quiet, the walls too white, the bed too empty. So she drove. The highway stretched ahead, black, unlit, the kind of dark that pressed against windows like it wanted in. Camille hated the woods, hated the unpredictable wildness on the edge of city limits. She needed control to feel safe, total control, every variable accounted for. This storm was chaos. Her skin crawled. Then her headlights caught something, a massive shadow on the shoulder. Camille slammed the brakes. The tires squealed. The car fishtailed. Her coffee cup exploded against the dashboard. Hot liquid everywhere. But she stopped. 3 feet from the guardrail. Hard hammering. She squinted through the rain-streaked windshield. Maybe 50 yards ahead. A vehicle sat dead on the roadside. Not a car. Something bigger. Ancient-looking. Like a logging truck from the 1950s. Smoke poured from the hood, and standing beside it, a man. No, a mountain. He had to be 6'11". Shoulders like a linebacker. Heavy canvas coat that looked hand-stitched. Dark hair plastered to his forehead. He didn't flinch as freezing rain hit his face. He just stood there, staring at her headlights. Camille should have kept driving. Any sane person would have locked the doors, called 911. But her eyes drifted to the smoking engine. That grinding hiss, she knew that sound. Blown gasket, completely fixable. Before law school, before sharp suits and corner office, Camille had been a grease-covered kid holding a wrench in her father's auto shop. He'd taught her everything. How to diagnose by sound, how to fix with her hands. Then he died when she was 16. Heart attack in the shop. She'd found him under a Chevy Silverado, But she remembered everything he taught her. And that engine, that hissing, that was a $500 tow truck fee the guy probably couldn't afford. Camille put the car in park. She survived cutthroat courtrooms. She survived her father's death. She'd survive helping a stranded stranger. She grabbed her phone, her flashlight, stepped out into the storm. The cold hit like a fist. Ice soaked through her wool coat. Her Italian leather heels sank into muddy shoulder. She should have worn boots. Should have stayed home. Should have. Should have. Should have. "Hey!" Camille shouted over the wind. "Pop the hood. Let me look." The man turned, slowly, like moving underwater. And his eyes, for one impossible second, they didn't look human. They caught the flashlight beam and reflected brilliant amber. Not yellow, not brown, amber, like old honey held to sunlight. A chill slid down Camille's spine, but then he blinked, and they were normal. Dark brown, tired, human, just a trick of the light, right? He didn't speak, didn't nod, just reached out with a hand the size of a dinner plate and easily lifted the massive hood. No hydraulics, no hinges, just pure strength. Camille swallowed. She forced her lawyer mask into place, confident, unshakable. Stepped up to the steaming engine, pulled a shop rag from her trunk. Got to work. The machinery was bizarre, old, like nothing she'd seen before. But an engine was an engine. Pistons, valves, combustion. Her hands moved on instinct, twisting, bypassing, rerouting. 5 minutes later, the engine roared to life. Deep, guttural, almost unnatural. Camille wiped grease onto her rag, stepped back, looked up at the stranger, forced a confident smirk. "All fixed. That'll be $500. I take cash or Venmo." She was joking, obviously, but the man didn't laugh, didn't even smile. Instead, he leaned forward, closed his eyes, and inhaled. What the hell? Camille froze. He was smelling her. Actually smelling her, like she was a bakery or a flower shop, or something equally insane. His chest expanded, held. Then he released a sound that vibrated through the soles of her heels. Not a sigh, a rumble, low, rattling, animal. "Okay," Camille stammered, heart pounding. "You know what? Free repair. Have a nice night." She turned to run, didn't make it one step. A massive hand clamped around her wrist. Not painful, but unbreakable, like being caught in a steel trap. Camille gasped, spun around. "Let go! That's assault!" The man yanked her forward, not rough, but irresistible. Her body collided with a chest as hard as stone. The smell of him crashed into her senses. Pine needles, wood smoke, something dark and earthy like wet soil after rain. It was overwhelming. Her head spun, knees weak. "Mine," he whispered. His voice was a dark rumble, deep, dangerous. Then he lowered his head, pressed his face into the curve of her neck, and she felt it. The sharp pierce of teeth sinking into the thin skin of her wrist. "No," Camille choked. She raised her fists, beat against his shoulders, fully prepared to scream, to fight, and to sue him into oblivion. But then the pain vanished. What followed was heat, liquid fire flooding through her veins. Not venom, something else. Something that felt like magic. A burning connection anchoring her soul straight to the monster holding her. Her legal mind short-circuited. This defied logic. This defied physics. This defied everything. As the fire pulsed, her legs gave out. The man caught her easily, pulled his teeth from her wrist. His amber eyes blazed with possessive triumph. He licked the single drop of blood from her skin. "Let me go," Camille slurred, vision blurring. "Never," he growled. Then he lifted her, tossed her over his shoulder like she weighed nothing. Camille tried to kick, tried to threaten a lawsuit, but her tongue felt thick, her body betrayed by the intoxicating heat radiating from his skin. He carried her away from her car, straight into the pitch-black trees. Just before she passed out, Camille saw something. A dark cloaked shadow standing behind a pine, watching them, holding something that gleamed silver in the moonlight. Why wasn't he stopping? Why didn't he see the danger? Before she could form a warning, the fire pulled her under. The world went dark. When Camille woke, the world was moving. She jolted upright, gasped. Her hands flew to her wrist. The skin was smooth, no blood, no bite marks. But the phantom ache was there, etched into her pulse. She sat in a pile of heavy wool blankets inside a rattling wooden vehicle. Not a car, a wagon, the walls rough-hewn timber. The only light came from a small iron lantern swinging from a hook. Her designer coat was gone, her phone was gone, her Audi, her briefcase, her entire life, gone. Panic, cold and sharp, threatened to choke her. But Camille was the youngest equity partner at Hartwell and Associates. She did not cry. Tears were weakness. Anger was a weapon. The door creaked open. Camille scrambled back, pressed her spine against the wall. The giant stepped inside. He had to duck to fit through the doorway. In daylight, he was even more intimidating. Harsh features, strong jaw, dark hair falling over his forehead, and those eyes, deep brown now, but watching her with simmering intensity. "You're awake," he said softly. "I'm kidnapped," Camille fired back, voice shaking only slightly. "Do you have any idea who I am? I'm an attorney. I will bury you in federal charges. False imprisonment, assault, grand theft auto." The man just stared, his lips twitched. Was he amused? Human laws don't apply here. Camille barked a harsh laugh. "Listen, I have a 401k, I have a mortgage, I don't howl at the moon, and I certainly don't belong in some medieval cosplay convention. You belong to me." He took a slow step closer. Camille's traitorous heart skipped a beat. The magnetic pull of him was terrifying, like gravity, inescapable. "I am Dorian Ashford," he continued, voice dropping to a low register, "Alpha of the Northern Territory, and you are my fated mate." "I object," Camille whispered. Before he could answer, the wagon lurched to a stop. Dorian reached out, grasped her waist with both hands, lifted her out of the wagon like she was a child. The moment her feet hit the ground, Camille froze. Her breath caught. They were no longer near the highway. They stood in a massive courtyard, surrounded by towering stone walls. Not a castle, a manor. Gothic, beautiful, ancient. There were no power lines, no cars, just hundreds of people wearing leather and flannel and heavy boots. And every single one of them was staring at her. Camille felt the hostility radiating from the crowd. An older woman with a silver braid stood on the stone steps. She smiled, warm, genuine, but beside her stood a man with a scarred face, looking at Camille's muddy heels with pure disgust. Camille lifted her chin, squared her shoulders. She would not break. Dorian placed a heavy hand on the small of her back. His touch sent a shockwave of heat straight down her spine. "Welcome home," he murmured. Camille looked up at the towering walls, at the fierce eyes of the man who claimed her. She swallowed hard. Her logical, perfectly structured life was gone. And the most terrifying part wasn't the crowd. It was how much her body wanted to lean into his touch. The stone courtyard felt like a freezing prison. Hundreds of eyes watched her every step. The crowd parted like water for Dorian, but they glared at Camille's tailored skirt and ruined heels with raw disgust. She ignored the sneers, ignored the whispers, ignored the primal fear clawing at her throat, because she refused to look like prey. Dorian's hand rested heavily on her lower back. His heat soaked through her wet clothes. The bond pulsed. An older man stepped directly into their path. "Who is this human?" he barked. He had a jagged scar across his face. Cruel mouth. Camille instantly recognized the look. Corrupt politician. Corporate shark. "She is my mate," Dorian rumbled, voice carrying lethal authority. "She smells like city filth." Before either could speak, Camille stepped around Dorian. "I'm an attorney, and I demand a phone call. I have a firm to run, clients. You cannot just declare me your property." The scarred man laughed. The crowd murmured with dark amusement. "Human laws mean nothing here," Dorian said softly. He didn't wait for her to argue. He swept her off her feet again. Camille gasped as he carried her up stone stairs, down a torch-lit hallway, through a heavy oak door, into a bedroom, massive bed piled with furs, fire roaring in the hearth. But no phone, no television, no way out. "Stay here for your safety," Dorian commanded. His amber eyes swept over her. "I'll send someone with food." He stepped backward, pulled the heavy door shut. The lock clicked. Because he wanted to protect her, he'd locked her in. She wasn't just a captive. She was trapped in a golden cage. Camille paced, back and forth across the stone floor like a caged animal. Her mind spun. She needed a plan. When she was a junior associate, she won her first impossible case by finding a loophole in a contract. She just needed a loophole here. She searched the room for a pen. No pens, but she found charcoal near the fireplace. Grabbed rough parchment from a wooden desk. Started drafting a formal writ of habeas corpus. Completely insane. But the familiar legal words made her feel grounded. Her chest ached. The room was cold, but her blood boiled. With every heartbeat, she felt that terrifying pull toward Dorian. It was just trauma bonding. Had to be. She looked at the massive bed. The furs smelled like him. Pine, smoke, danger. She would freeze before she touched them. A soft knock came at the door. "Come in," Camille called. The door opened. The older woman with the silver braid stepped inside. She carried a tray, soup, bread, tea. "Hello, child," she said gently. "I'm Margot, Dorian's grandmother." Camille stood, crossed her arms. "Tell your grandson this is illegal detention." Margot smiled. She set the tray on a small table, sat in the chair by the fire, gestured for Camille to join her. Against her better judgment, Camille sat. "You look just like her," Margot said quietly. "Like who?" "Your mother." Camille froze. Her heart stopped. "What did you say?" Margot reached into her pocket, pulled out a photograph. Old, faded, creased from being folded and unfolded 1,000 times. She handed it to Camille. The image showed two young women, maybe 25, laughing, arms around each other. One was Margot, decades younger, dark hair instead of silver. The other, Camille's breath caught. The other was her mother. "How?" Camille whispered. "How do you have this?" "Because your mother and I were best friends," Margot said, before she left. "Left where?" "Here, this pack." The room tilted. Camille gripped the arms of the chair. "My mother was human. She worked in a library. She married my father when she was 28. She never mentioned any of this. Because she was protecting you." Margot leaned forward, eyes kind but sad. "Your mother was born in this pack. Her name was Lorelei Crow. She was supposed to take her place as council member. But there was a prophecy about her future daughter." "What prophecy?" "That the daughter of two worlds would return, destroy old fears, build new trust." Camille shook her head. "That's insane." The council head, Silas, he only saw the word destroy. He panicked, declared that any half-blood child would destabilize the pack. Your mother fled to protect you. "Wait, Silas, the scarred man?" Margot nodded. "He's still here, still on the council, and he still believes you're dangerous." Camille stood, paced, processed. Her mother, a werewolf, who fled to protect her, who kept the secret for 29 years, who died with that secret. "Find where you belong." Her mother's last words, not random, a message. "Why didn't she ever come back?" Camille asked, voice breaking. Fear, guilt, Timeo. Margot stood, placed a gentle hand on Camille's shoulder. "But she wrote letters, dozens of them, never sent. They're in the archive." "Can I see them?" "Tomorrow, tonight you need rest." Margot moved toward the door, paused. "The council is demanding Dorian prove you're worthy. 3 moon trials, 3 tests. You pass, you're accepted. You fail, the bond must be severed, and you leave." "What kind of test?" "Reason, compassion, spirit. And if I don't want to take them," Margot looked sad, "then you'll be escorted to the border, and you'll never see Dorian again. The bond will kill you both within weeks." She left. The door locked again. Camille sank onto the bed. Her mother was a werewolf. She was half werewolf, and she was mated to an alpha. None of this made sense. But the photograph in her hands was real. Her mother's smile. Young, free, happy, before fear took that away. Camille looked at the charcoal writ on the desk. Legal challenges wouldn't work here. But maybe she could pass their tests, prove herself, find the truth about her mother, then decide, stay or go. She lay back on the furs. They smelled like Dorian. Against her will, her eyes closed. Exhaustion pulled her under. Morning came with shouting. Camille jolted awake, boots marching in the hallway outside. Voices raised, angry. She stood, smoothed her wrinkled skirt, braided her hair. Armor. The door swung open. Dorian stood there. The council wants to meet you. Good, I have questions. He almost smiled. I'm sure you do. He led her through stone corridors, down sweeping stairs, into a great hall. A massive table dominated the center. 12 people sat around it, older, battle-scarred, watching her with suspicion. Silas sat at the head, his scarred face twisted with disgust as Camille entered. The human, he spat. Half-blood, Margot corrected gently. She sat 3 seats down. Her mother was Lorelei Crow. I know who her mother was, Silas snapped. Camille stepped forward. Then you know you drove her away, with fear and prejudice. The room went silent. Silas stood slowly. You dare accuse this council? I dare state facts. My mother fled because you threatened her unborn child. Me. Because the prophecy warned of destruction. The prophecy, Camille said coldly, that you interpreted through fear. Destroy old fears. That's what it said. Not destroy the pack. Destroy fear itself. Silas's face turned purple. Margot cleared her throat. The council has decided. Camille Morrison will undergo the 3 moon trials. First moon, trial of reason. Second moon, trial of compassion. Third moon, trial of spirit. And if she fails, Silas demanded, the bond will be severed. She will leave. Dorian tensed beside Camille. She felt his distress through the bond, his fear, his hope. I accept, Camille said. Every head turned. You accept, Silas repeated. I'm an attorney. I deal in evidence and argument. Reason is my specialty. Bring it on. The first moon trial came 3 days later. Camille spent those days in the Manor Library, reading, researching, learning pack law, territory disputes, ancient treaties. Margot brought her mother's letters, dozens of them, written over 29 years, never sent. Year 1, I miss home, but I'd make the same choice again. Year 7, Camille started school today. She's so smart. Year 15, I hope someday she can return, if they'll have her. Year 28, I'm sick. The doctors say months. Tell her I love her. Camille cried reading them. Real tears. For the first time since the funeral. Her mother had carried this secret, this grief, this hope. For her. She spread the letters across the library table, traced her mother's handwriting, year 12. Camille asked about family today. I lied, said we had none. My heart broke, year 19. She's graduating law school, top of her class. I wish Margot could see her. Year 24, she's so lonely, works too hard, builds walls like I did. I want to tell her the truth, but what if Silas... The sentence ended there, unfinished, abandoned. Camille pressed the letter to her chest. Mom, I'm here. I found them. I found home. But her mother couldn't hear. On the morning of the trial, Margot found Camille in the library. The council is ready. Camille stood. She wore simple clothes now. Jeans, flannel, boots borrowed from Margot. Her suit was gone. She was someone different here. The trial took place in the Great Hall. The entire pack crowded in. Standing room only. Silas stood at the center. The Northern Territory faces a crisis. The Cascade Timber Company claims 400 acres of our eastern forest. They have a court order. Bulldozers arrive in 3 weeks. We have no lawyer, no legal recourse. He looked at Camille. Solve this or fail. Camille stepped forward. I'll need to see the deed, the court order, any treaties or contracts related to the land. Silas gestured. A young man brought forward a box. Documents, maps, legal papers. Camille spread them across the table. The pack watched. She read. For 6 hours straight, her mind cataloging, cross-referencing, building the case. Finally, she found it. A treaty from 1892, signed by the territorial governor and an alpha named James Ashford, Dorian's great-great-grandfather. The treaty granted the pack permanent rights to the eastern forest, in perpetuity, in exchange for fire management and wildlife conservation. The timber company's court order never referenced this treaty because they didn't know it existed. Camille looked up. I'll need 3 days and a ride to Olympia. The courtroom in Olympia was sleek, modern, everything the pack's manor was not. Camille stood at the plaintiff's table, wearing a borrowed suit from Margot's archive, perfectly tailored, exactly her size, because her mother had left it behind. The timber company's lawyer was a shark. Gray hair, expensive tie. He smirked when he saw her. Counselor, you're representing a pack of werewolves. I'm representing a sovereign entity with treaty rights. His smirk faded. The judge entered. All rise. Camille presented the treaty, the historical documents, the conservation records showing the pack had upheld their end for 132 years. The timber company's lawyer sputtered. Your Honor, this treaty is outdated. Outdated, Camille interrupted. The Constitution is older. Are you suggesting that's outdated too? The gallery murmured. The judge leaned forward. Counselor Morrison, you're arguing that this treaty supersedes the county's land use permits. I'm arguing that federal treaty law supersedes county permits. Yes, Your Honor. The timber company's lawyer tried to recover, but Camille had him. She'd built an airtight case. After 2 hours of arguments, the judge ruled. Injunction granted. Cascade Timber is barred from entering the disputed territory pending further review. Treaty rights acknowledged. The gavel struck. Camille's knees nearly buckled. She'd won. She walked out of the courthouse into gray Seattle drizzle. Dorian was waiting. He stood beside a truck, arms crossed, looking completely out of place in the city. When he saw her, his face transformed. Relief, pride, joy. You did it. Camille smiled, really smiled. For the first time in months. I did. The pack's reaction was split. The younger wolves cheered, celebrated. Someone started a bonfire. The elders remained silent, suspicious. Silas stood on the manor steps, watching, his scarred face unreadable. But he didn't object. Couldn't. Camille had passed the first moon trial. That night, Dorian asked her to walk with him. They followed a trail through the forest, moonlight filtering through the pines. The air smelled like cedar and rain. You saved us without bloodshed, Dorian said quietly. No alpha has done that in generations. I just used the law. You used your mind, your training, your gifts. They reached a clearing, a small meadow, wild flowers glowing silver in the moonlight. Dorian stopped, turned to face her. I need to tell you something about my mate bond, about why I thought I'd never feel this again. Camille's breath caught. 9 years ago, I had a wife, Rebecca. She was pregnant. 8 months. We were so happy. His voice broke. She went into labor early. Complications. The baby, our son, he didn't make it. And Rebecca, she hemorrhaged. The pack healers couldn't stop it. Tears streamed down his face. I held her while she died. Held our son. They're buried on the hill behind the manor. Dorian, Camille whispered. I thought I was broken. That I'd never bond again. That I'd lead this pack alone until I died. Then I saw you, fixing that engine, covered in grease, swearing under your breath. And I felt it, the bond, snapping into place. He took her hands. You're my second chance. I don't know why the fates gave me this, but I swear I will spend every day proving I'm worthy of it. Camille looked up at him, this massive, gentle man who'd lost everything, who was offering her everything. I'm scared, she admitted. Of what? Of failing the next trials, of the bond, of losing control. You don't have to have all the answers. I'm a lawyer. Answers are my job. Dorian smiled, reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Then here's an answer. You passed the first moon. You proved your mind. The pack is watching. And some of them are starting to hope. Hope for what? That you're exactly what the prophecy promised. The one who destroys old fears and builds something new. Camille's heart hammered. She looked at this man, this alpha, this second chance, and for the first time since her mother died, she felt something other than emptiness. She felt possibility. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll try. The next trial, I'll try. Dorian's smile was radiant. He pulled her close, rested his forehead against hers. The bond hummed, warm, right. And Camille let herself feel it, just for a moment, before the fear came back, before the trials, before everything else. She let herself feel hope. 3 weeks passed like a dream, or maybe a nightmare. Camille couldn't decide which. She woke each morning in the manor bedroom, sunlight streaming through leaded glass windows, the smell of pine and wood smoke drifting up from the kitchens below. It felt like home, which terrified her, because Seattle was home, her apartment, her firm, Her carefully constructed life, wasn't it? She'd called her assistant twice, using the single landline in Margot's study, made excuses, medical leave, family emergency, all technically true. Her assistant had been concerned. Are you okay? You sound different. Different, yes, that was the word. Camille spent her days in the library, reading her mother's letters, learning pack history, watching the community move around her like a living organism. Mornings the hunting parties left. Afternoons the children trained. Evenings everyone gathered for communal dinner. It was nothing like her solitary life. Nothing like microwave takeout eaten standing at her kitchen counter while reviewing briefs. This was loud, chaotic, messy, beautiful. And every night Dorian would find her, walk with her, talk with her. He told her about growing up as Alpha's son, the pressure, the expectations, how he'd met Rebecca at a summer gathering, how she'd made him laugh for the first time in years. I was so serious, he said one evening. They sat by the lake, watching the sunset turn the water copper, always preparing to lead. She told me I needed to learn to live first. Did you, Bo? I tried, then I lost her, and I forgot how. Camille's throat tightened. Until now. He looked at her. Those dark eyes full of hope and fear and something deeper. Something Camille wasn't ready to name. The second moon is tomorrow, she said, changing the subject. Dorian nodded. The trial of compassion. What does that even mean? I don't know. The council keeps the challenges secret until the day. Great, perfect. Camille, the control freak, facing an unknown test. What could possibly go wrong? The second moon rose full and silver over the manor. The pack gathered in the great hall. More crowded than the first trial. Word had spread. The human who'd saved their land. The lawyer who'd beaten the timber company. Some watched with hope. Others with suspicion. Silas stood at the council table. His scarred face twisted into something that might have been a smile, but wasn't. Camille Morrison, he announced, you passed the trial of reason, proving your mind serves the pack. Polite applause. Camille stood in the center of the hall, Dorian beside her, Margot watching from the front row. The second moon tests your heart, the trial of compassion. Silas gestured. Two groups entered from opposite doors, families, maybe 20 people total, old. Young, children, they stood on opposite sides of the hall, glaring at each other with pure hatred. The Rivera and Blackwell families, Silas continued, have been at war for 50 years. Blood feuds, sabotage, violence. We have tried everything, arbitration, punishment, exom. He looked at Camille. Nothing works. Heal this rift or fail. Then he sat down. Camille blinked. That was it. That was the whole challenge. Heal a 50-year blood feud. Sure, no problem. She'd just whip out her magic therapy wand. Except this was exactly the kind of problem she'd never faced in a courtroom. Because courts dealt in facts, evidence, law, not emotion, not 50 years of accumulated rage. She took a breath. Okay, think. What did she know about conflict resolution? Nothing. What did she know about families? Even less. Her father died when she was 16. Her mother kept secrets until death. Camille had no siblings, no cousins, no template for how families even worked. But she knew how to listen, and she knew how to ask questions. Camille stepped forward. I need to understand what happened. Who wants to tell me? Silence. The families glared. Finally, an older woman from the Rivera side spoke. She had gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, deep lines around her mouth. My son died saving that girl. She pointed a shaking finger at a woman in the Blackwell group. Victor, he was 18. She was 16 and drowning in the river. He pulled her out, but the current took him. Her voice broke. 50 years, and they never said thank you. The Blackwell woman she'd pointed at stepped forward. She had to be in her late 60s now. Gray streaked her dark hair. I was 16, she said quietly. I didn't ask him to save me. I didn't ask him to die. You never even came to the funeral, the Rivera woman shouted. Because I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. By the time I got out, you'd already buried him and blamed me. The room erupted, shouting, accusations flying. Camille raised her hands. Stop, please, everyone stop. They didn't stop. So she did something she'd never done in a courtroom. She walked to the Rivera woman, took her hand. What was your son's name? The woman blinked, surprised. Victor. Victor Rivera. Tell me about him. What? Tell me who he was before that day. The woman's eyes filled with tears. He wanted to be a teacher. He loved children. Always had the little ones following him around. He had this laugh, this big booming laugh that made everyone else laugh too. She smiled through tears. He would have been an amazing father. Camille squeezed her hand, then turned to the Blackwell woman. And you, what was that day like for you? The woman's face crumpled. I dream about it. Every night for 50 years. I see him pulling me to shore. I see him smile. He said, "You're safe now." Then the current pulled him under. She started crying. I wanted to die too. I felt so guilty. I still feel guilty. Every single day. The Rivera woman stared. You feel guilty. Of course I feel guilty. The Blackwell woman sobbed. A boy died because of me. I've carried that for half a century. I wanted to thank his family. I wanted to tell them how sorry I was. But you all hated me, and I thought maybe I deserved that hate. Something shifted in the room. The air changed. The Rivera woman took a shaky step forward. Anna, you're Anna Blackwell. Yes, I'm Sophia Rivera, Victor's mother. They stood 3 feet apart, 50 years of silence between them. I'm sorry, Anna whispered. I'm so sorry your son died saving me. And I'm sorry I never said it before. But thank you. Thank you for raising a boy brave enough to save a stranger. Sophia's face twisted. She made a sound, half sob, half gasp. Then she pulled Anna into her arms. Both women wept. The families watched, stunned. Some started crying too, because grief recognized grief, and pain recognized pain. Camille stepped back. Let them have this moment. Dorian appeared beside her. He took her hand, squeezed. She'd done it. Not with law, not with logic, with listening, with creating space for truth, with compassion. That night, the families shared a meal. First time in 50 years. The hall filled with cautious conversation. Then laughter, then stories about Victor. Sophia told the Blackwells about her son's childhood. Anna told the Riveras how she'd named her own son, Victor, in honor, in remembrance. The boy, now 48, wept when he heard. Camille watched from the corner. Margot joined her. You have a gift. I just asked questions. No, you gave them permission to grieve together. That's rare. They stood in comfortable silence. Then Margot said quietly, your mother had this gift too. She could see the hurt underneath the anger. Camille's chest tightened. I wish I'd known her. The real her. You do know her. You carry her heart. Camille wiped her eyes quickly. The third moon is in 2 weeks. The trial of spirit, the hardest one. Why, Margot looked at her. Really looked. Because you'll have to face yourself. The days before the third moon blurred together. Camille and Dorian grew closer. Inevitable. The bond pulled them together like gravity. They took long walks, talked for hours, shared meals. One evening he took her to a hilltop, showed her 2 graves side by side. Rebecca Ashford, beloved wife. Michael Ashford, beloved son. Fresh wildflowers lay on both. I come here every week, Dorian said. Talk to them. Tell them about the pack, about my day. Do you think they hear you? I hope so. He knelt, placed his hand on Rebecca's headstone. Becca, I want you to meet someone. Camille's breath caught. This is Camille. She's going to think I'm crazy talking to you. But you always said I should be honest about my feelings. So here it is. I'm falling for her. And I think you'd like her. She's strong, brilliant, stubborn as hell. He smiled. She reminds me of you. Tears streamed down Camille's face. Dorian stood, turned to her. I needed her permission. Is that weird? No, it's beautiful. He pulled Camille close, held her. And for the first time since her mother died, Camille felt like she could breathe. The third moon came too fast. Camille stood in her room, dressed in simple clothes. Boots, jacket. Margot entered without knocking. Ready? No. Good. If you were ready, you wouldn't learn anything. She handed Camille a small leather pack. Water, jerky, a blanket. The trial lasts 3 days. You'll be alone in the sacred grove. No food except what you bring. No contact with anyone. What am I supposed to do? Face your truth? Helpful? Super helpful. They walked to the forest edge. The entire pack gathered. Watching? Silent. Silas stood with the council. The third moon. Trial of spirit. Enter the grove. Meditate. Seek vision. Return in 3 days with your truth. He gestured to a narrow path leading into dense trees. If you fail to return, the bond will be severed. You'll be escorted to the border. Camille looked at Dorian. He looked terrified. She was terrified, but she nodded, stepped onto the path. The trees closed around her. Behind her, the pack's voices faded. Ahead, only silence and shadows. And herself, the sacred grove sat in a small clearing. Ancient trees formed a perfect circle. Moss covered everything. The air smelled like earth and time. Camille set down her pack, spread the blanket, sat. Now what? Meditate. Right. She tried meditation once, downloaded an app, lasted 4 minutes before getting bored. But she had 3 days, might as well try. Camille closed her eyes, focused on breathing, in, out, in, out. Her mind immediately started spinning. Case law, contract clauses, her Seattle apartment. Had she paid the electric bill? Stop, breathe, in, out. She thought of her mother, Lorelei, young, laughing in that photograph with Margot. Why did you leave? Why didn't you tell me? Did you regret it? The questions swirled. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange here. As darkness fell, Camille lay down, stared at stars through the canopy. Sleep came fitfully, and with it, dreams. She stood in her childhood home, the small house near her father's auto shop. Her mother sat at the kitchen table, young, maybe 25, pregnant. Mom, Lorelei looked up, smiled. Hi, baby. Is this real? Does it matter? Camille sat across from her. I need to understand. Why did you leave the pack? Her mother's smile faded. Because I was afraid. Of what? Of the prophecy, of Silas, of what my decision might do to you. What decision? Lorelei placed a hand on her swollen belly. I fell in love with your father, a human, a good man, gentle, kind, everything I needed. But the pack demanded I give him up, said mixing blood was dangerous, Silas especially. He was my father, and he was terrified of the prophecy. Camille's heart stopped. Silas is my grandfather. Yes. The room spun. He exiled me, his own daughter, because he chose fear over love. I was so angry, so hurt. I ran, met your father, married him, had you. Did you regret it? Lorelei laughed. Never, not once. Your father gave me 18 beautiful years. You gave me purpose. I regretted not telling you the truth. I regretted dying before I could bring you home. She reached across the table, took Camille's hand. But you're home now. I don't know if I belong here. Belonging isn't about place. It's about choosing where you want to stay. What if I choose wrong? Her mother smiled. There's no wrong decision. Only your decision. The dream shifted. Camille walked through fog, thick, disorienting. A figure appeared ahead. Tall, silver hair, an old woman, ancient. She wore robes made of moss and bark. Who are you, Your grandmother's grandmother, and hers before. I am the bloodline. The woman circled Camille. You seek truth. Yes. Then look, she pointed. The fog cleared. Camille saw a stone, massive, covered in carved words. The prophecy. She stepped closer. Read. Daughter of two worlds shall return. Destroy the fears that harm. Build the trust that heals, neither fully wolf nor fully human, but wholly herself, and in that wholeness find power. Camille stared. Silas only saw the word destroy, the ancient woman said. He let fear blind him. But the prophecy isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. I'm supposed to change the pack. You're supposed to be yourself. The change follows. The woman touched Camille's forehead. You have your mother's heart, your father's mind, and your own courage. Trust that. The vision faded. Camille awoke on the second day, thirsty, hungry, disoriented. She drank water, ate jerky, The dreams felt real, more real than reality. She spent the day in meditation, letting thoughts come and go. Grief about her mother, fear about the future, hope about Dorian. All of it swirled together. By evening, she felt lighter, clearer. She understood now. Her mother had made a decision, love over fear, and Camilo had to make the same choice. Stay with the pack, with Dorian, with this strange, beautiful community, or return to Seattle, to her empty apartment, to her hollow victories. The choice was hers. No magic, no fate, just her. The third day dawned clear and cold. Camille packed her things, prepared to leave the grove. She felt different, settled, sure. As she stood, a sound made her freeze. Running water. But there was no stream in the grove. She followed the sound, found a small spring, crystal clear. Bubbling up from between rocks, she knelt, cupped water in her hands, drank. It tasted sweet, pure, refreshing. She drank more, then stood to leave, and that's when the pain hit. Fire exploded in her stomach. Camille doubled over, gasping. What? What was happening? The water. Something was wrong with the water. She stumbled, fell, her vision blurred. Poison. Someone poisoned the sacred spring. Her body convulsed. She vomited. Black liquid, not normal, not natural. The bond screamed. Dorian, something's wrong, help. But he couldn't hear her, too far away. Camille crawled toward her pack. Toward the path, her limbs felt like lead. Darkness crept into the edges of her vision. No, she had to get back. Had to tell them, had to. She collapsed. The world went black. When she woke, she was moving. Strong arms carried her. Dorian. She'd recognize his scent anywhere. Dorian, she croaked. Don't talk. Save your strength. Poisoned. I know, the healers are waiting. How long had she been out? Found you at the grove entrance. Collapsed. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. 6 hours. Day 3 was almost over. She'd almost died. Who would poison the sacred grove? The manor's healing room smelled like herbs and panic. 3 healers surrounded Camille, checking, prodding, muttering. Margot stood nearby, face pale. Dorian paced like a caged animal. What is it? He demanded. The head healer, an old woman named Vera, looked grim. Aconite severance. The room went silent. That's impossible, Margot whispered. That plant has been extinct for 80 years. Someone cultivated it and poisoned the sacred spring. Dorian's face twisted with rage. Who? We don't know, but this is deliberate, targeted. Camille's head spun. What does it do? Vera looked at her with pity. It breaks mate bonds permanently. You have 10 days, then the bond dies, your wolf dies, and shortly after, you die. What? The human body can't sustain a broken bond. It's too much trauma. Your system will shut down. Camille tried to sit up. Failed. Too weak. There has to be a cure. There's no cure, no antidote, no magical solution. Dorian grabbed Vera's arm. There has to be something. I'm sorry, Alpha. In all the texts, all the histories, only one reversal was ever documented, and the circumstances were unclear. Tell me. Vera hesitated. The subject chose their bond partner. Without magical compulsion. Pure human will. It broke the curse. That's it. That's the cure. It's not a cure. It's a miracle, and it's only happened once in 1943. Dorian looked at Camille. She looked back. The bond pulsed between them. Still strong, still warm. But for how long? The symptoms started on day 2. Camille woke feeling cold, numb. She looked at Dorian sleeping in the chair beside her bed and felt nothing. The warmth was fading. By day 3, she could barely feel the bond. By day 4, it was a whisper. By day 5, gone. She looked at Dorian and saw a stranger. Handsome, sure, kind of obviously, but no pull, no connection, just nothing. Her wolf had gone completely silent. It was like losing a limb she didn't know she had. Camille sat up, her body weak but functional. Dorian woke. You shouldn't be moving. I need to leave. What? This was a mistake, all of it. I have a life in saddle, a career. I need to get back. Her voice was flat, clinical. Lawyer voice. Dorian's face crumbled. Camille, it's the poison. It's making you feel this way. Is it or is it clarity? She stood, unsteady. I don't belong here. I never did. That's not true. Isn't it? I'm human. You're, whatever you are. This whole thing was insane. She grabbed her clothes, started packing. Dorian stood. Please, please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. I'm undoing. There's a difference. Cold. So cold. Where had the warmth gone? Why couldn't she feel anything? Margot found her in the library. Camille was packing her mother's letters. You're leaving. Yes. Because of the poison. Because I don't belong here. Margot sat heavily. The curse is making you think that. Or the curse is letting me think clearly for the first time in weeks. You passed 2 trials. You were about to pass the 3rd. And then someone tried to kill me. Message received. Camille zipped her bag. Margot was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Silas poisoned you. Camille froze. What? I confronted him this morning. He confessed. He cultivated the aconite, poisoned the spring. He was trying to protect the pack. The room tilted. Silas, the council head. Yes. Why are you telling me this? Margot's eyes filled with tears. Because he's my son, and you're my great-granddaughter. And I've lost too many people to fear. The words didn't make sense. Great-granddaughter. Silas is Lorelai's father, your grandfather. He exiled your mother 30 years ago because he was afraid of the prophecy. And now he's poisoned you for the same reason. Camille sat down hard. Her grandfather, the man who'd sneered at her, challenged her, poisoned her, was her grandfather. He's a monster. He's afraid. Fear makes people do terrible things. That's not an excuse. No, it's not. Margot stood, walked to the door, paused. Your mother wrote one final letter. She gave it to me before she left. Made me promise to give it to you if you ever came home. She pulled an envelope from her pocket. Old, yellowed, handed it to Camille, then left. Camille stared at the envelope, her name in her mother's handwriting. She opened it. My dearest Camille, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you found your way home. I'm so proud of you. I left the pack because I was afraid. Afraid of what Silas might do. Afraid of the prophecy. Afraid of failing you. But I want you to know something. I chose your father freely. No bond, no magic, just love. And that decision, that free choice was the most powerful thing I ever did. The pack believes in fated mates, in destiny, in magic that controls us. But real power comes from choosing. If you love Dorian, love him because you choose to, not because fate says so. And if you don't, if you choose to leave, that's OOE too, because you are not destiny's puppet. You are my daughter, and you get to write your own story. I love you, always. Mom Camille read it 3 times, cried through all 3 readings. Then she made a decision. She was leaving, not because the poison told her to, but because she needed space, clarity, distance from magic and bonds, and all of it. She needed to figure out what she wanted, without anyone's voice but her own. Day 7, the council gathered. Camille stood before them, pale, weak, but determined. I'm leaving, she announced. Silas looked relieved. Others looked devastated. Margot looked resigned. Dorian looked broken. The 3rd moon trial is incomplete, Silas said. Therefore you have failed. The bond must be severed. The bond is already severed, Camille said coldly. Your poison took care of that. Whispers erupted. What is she talking about? Did he, the sacred spring? Margot stood. Silas Crow confessed to me this morning. He poisoned the sacred spring with aconite severance, an act of attempted murder. Chaos. The council shouted. Pack members yelled. Silas tried to speak but was drowned out. Finally, Dorian's voice cut through. Enough! Silence fell. He looked at Silas. Is this true? Silas stood. I did what was necessary. The prophecy warns of destruction. She was going to destroy us. The prophecy warns of destroying fear, Margot snapped. You twisted it, just like you twisted your daughter out of your life. Silas's face crumpled. I was protecting the pack. You murdered your own granddaughter. She's not dead yet. Only because she's strong, no thanks to you. Silas looked at Camille. really looked. And for the first time she saw it. Fear, guilt, regret. I lost my daughter, he said quietly. Lorelei, I exiled her because I was afraid. She died alone, in the human world. I never got to apologize. His voice broke. I couldn't let it happen again. Couldn't let another half-blood tear this pack apart. So you tried to kill me, Camille said. Yes. At least he was honest. I'm sorry, Silas whispered. I'm so sorry, Lorelei. I'm so sorry. He sank to his knees, weeping. This broken old man, her grandfather, who'd let fear rule his life, destroy his family, poison his future. Camille felt nothing. The curse had taken her emotions. But maybe that was a mercy. I'm leaving, she said. Take me back to the highway. I'll find my own way from there. Dorian stepped forward. Please, don't. There's nothing here for me. I'm here. For now, until the bond kills you too. I don't care. Well, I do. She looked at him, this beautiful broken man who'd lost so much, who was about to lose more. I'm sorry, she said, and meant it, even through the numbness. Day 8, Dorian drove Camille's to the highway, back to the exact spot they'd met. Neither spoke. What was there to say? He pulled over, put the truck in park. Camille reached for the door handle. Wait, Dorian said. She paused. He pulled something from his pocket. A photograph. The one of Lorelei and Margot, young, laughing. Margot wanted you to have this. Camille took it, stared at her mother's face. I loved you, Dorian said quietly. I know the bond is gone. I know you don't feel it anymore. But I need you to know. I loved you. Not because of fate, because of you. Camille's throat tightened, but she felt nothing. Nothing. Goodbye, Dorian. She got out, closed the door. He sat there for a long moment, then drove away, into the trees, to die, alone. Camille stood on the highway shoulder. The rain started falling, again. Full circle. She pulled out her phone, called an Uber, waited, and felt absolutely nothing, which should have been a relief, but somehow, it was the worst feeling of all. The Uber driver was a woman in her 60s, gray hair, kind eyes. She looked at Camille in the rearview mirror. You okay, honey? You look like you've seen a ghost. Camille stared out the rain-streaked window. I'm fine. Where are we headed? Seattle, downtown. 2 hours of highway stretched ahead. 2 hours to process, to think, to feel absolutely nothing. The driver tried small talk, weather, traffic, the Seahawks. Camille gave one-word answers. Eventually, the woman gave up. They drove in silence. Rain hammered the roof. Camille touched her wrist, the place where Dorian had bitten her, marked her, started this whole impossible mess. The skin was smooth, no scar, like it never happened, like none of it happened, except it did. And now Dorian was dying, and she felt nothing about it, which was the problem. Because the old Camille, the Camille from 6 weeks ago, would have felt something, anger, frustration, professional obligation to sue someone, but this Camille, this poisoned, empty Camille Basim, felt nothing. The curse had taken her emotions, left her with cold logic, and cold logic said, go home, resume life, forget the insanity. So that's what she did. Her apartment looked exactly the same. White walls, minimalist furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Camille dropped her bag, stood in the silence. It felt like a tomb. She checked her phone, 73 missed calls from her assistant, 42 emails marked urgent. She called the office. Camille, oh my God, where have you been? Family emergency, I'm back now. Are you okay? You sound different. There was that word again, different. I'm fine, what did I miss? Her assistant rattled off cases, depositions, court dates. The Brennan family had filed a countersuit. Camille's took notes, organized, prioritized, fell back into the rhythm, because work was safe, work was controllable, work didn't require emotions. She spent day 8 working, 16 hours straight, reviewing briefs, drafting motions, preparing arguments. Her mind sharp, her heart silent, perfect, exactly how she liked it. Except around midnight, she coughed, and black phlegm came up. She stared at it in the bathroom sink. Right, the poison. Day 9 tomorrow, 1 day left. then death. She should probably care about that. She didn't. Camille rinsed her mouth, went to bed, slept dreamlessly. Day 9 dawned gray and cold. Camille woke, made coffee, opened her laptop. An email notification popped up. FedEx delivery at front desk. She hadn't ordered anything. Curious, she went downstairs, signed for a package, large box, overnight shipping. Return address Margot Ashford. Camille carried it upstairs, opened it. Inside, letters, dozens of them. Her mother's letters, the ones Lorelai had written over 29 years. Never sent. A note from Margot lay on top. Camille, I thought you might need these. Whatever you decide, know that you are loved. Always. Margot. Camille sat on the floor, pulled out the first letter. Year 1, Sam. March. Dear Mom, dear Margot, dear everyone I left behind, I miss home. I miss the forest. I miss communal dinners and morning hunts and the way the pack moves together like one living thing. But I'd make the same decision again because I love him. Michael, my husband, and love has to be stronger than fear. I'm pregnant. 3 months. The baby moves at night. I talk to her, tell her about the pack, about you. I hope someday she can meet you. I hope someday I'm brave enough to come home. Love. Lorelai. Camille read, letter after letter, year 5, year 10, year 15, her mother's life unfolding in careful handwriting, the joy of Camille's birth, the grief when Michael died, the struggle of single parenthood, the secret kept, always the secret, year 28, December. The doctors say months, maybe weeks. I should have told her, should have brought her home, but I was afraid. Fear has ruled my life, driven every decision. I don't want that for Camille. If she ever finds you, tell her, real power comes from choosing. Tell her I chose love, and I'd do it again. Camille finished the last letter, sat in silence. Her mother had chosen love over fear, every single time, even knowing it would cost her, even knowing she'd die alone. She'd chosen, and that choice had been powerful, real, more permanent than any magical bond. Camille looked around her apartment. White walls, empty spaces, perfect order. She'd built this life on control, on safety, on never being vulnerable again. After her father died, she decided never let anyone hurt you, never need anyone, never risk anything. And it worked. She was successful, rich, powerful, and completely alone. The phone rang. Unknown number. Camille answered. Hello. Heavy breathing, then, Camille, it's Margot. How did you get this number? That doesn't matter. Listen to me. Dorian is dying. Camille's chest tightened, but she felt nothing. I know, the bond. He's not fighting it. He's letting go. That's his choice. Is it, or is he choosing what he thinks you want? Silence. Camille, I did research on the aconite severance. There's a university archive, 1943, a documented case. I know, the healer mentioned it. Did she mention the details? The woman who broke the curse. She'd been poisoned by her own family. They wanted to prevent her bonding. The poison worked, severed the connection. And she chose him anyway, without the bond, without magical compulsion, pure human will. She chose love. And that decision, that free choice, it shattered the curse. Camille's lawyer brain activated. You're saying my choice breaks the curse. I'm saying if you truly choose him, not because of magic, but because of love, the curse has no power. That's not scientifically possible. Nothing about the last 6 weeks has been scientifically possible. Fair point. Camille stood, paced, her mind racing, free will over fate, human love over magical bond. What if I don't love him? She asked quietly. Margot was silent for a moment. Then you go on with your life, and Dorian dies. And eventually, so do you. Because the bond is severed, but the damage is done. How long do I have? Hours, maybe less. He's fading fast. And me? Day 10 is tomorrow. You have until midnight tonight. Camille looked at the clock. 3:47 p.m., 8 hours. Camille, Margot said gently, I can't tell you what to choose, but ask yourself, when you read your mother's letters, what did you feel? I don't feel anything. The curse. I'm not asking what the curse lets you feel. I'm asking what's underneath. in the place the poison can't reach. Camille closed her eyes, thought about Dorian, his gentleness, his grief, his hope, the way he'd let her fight her own battles, trusted her mind, respected her choices, the way he'd driven her back to the highway. Let her go, even knowing it would kill him. "I have to go," Camille whispered. She hung up. Research mode. Camille opened her laptop, hacked into the university botanical database, found the study from 1943. Subject Jane Mitchell, age 29, bonded to werewolf male. Family poisoned her with aconite severance. Bond severed day 7. Subject reported complete emotional numbness, loss of wolf connection, certainty she wanted to leave. Day 9, subject changed mind, returned to bond partner, spoke words, "I choose you freely, no magic, no fate, just me choosing you." Curse shattered, bond restored, different than before, stronger, because it was chosen, not fated. The study concluded human will may be the only force capable of overriding magical compulsion. Further research needed. No further research was ever done. Sample size of 1. Camille sat back. One case, 80 years ago. Was that enough? Could she base a decision on one case study? She thought like a lawyer, evaluated evidence, weighed risks, considered outcomes. If she stayed in Seattle, she'd die. Dorian would die. Safe, controlled, lonely. If she went back, maybe she'd break the curse. Maybe she'd fail. Maybe she'd watch Dorian die anyway. But at least she'd have tried. At least she'd have chosen. Camille looked at her mother's letters. Her mother had been right. Camille stood, grabbed her coat, called a car service. Because she was going home, not to Seattle, to the pack, to Dorian, to the terrifying, beautiful chaos she'd been running from her whole life. The car service sent a minivan. The driver was the same woman from yesterday. "Betty," she looked at Camille in surprise. "You again, me again. Where to this time?" "Cascade Mountains. Same drop-off as before." Betty raised an eyebrow. "Thought you were done with that place." "I thought so too." They drove. Camille watched the city fade, the suburbs thin, the trees thicken. "Can I ask you something?" Betty said. "Sure." "You running towards something or away from something?" Camille thought about that and toward. Betty smiled. "Good. That's real good." They drove in comfortable silence until Betty spoke again. "My husband died 3 years ago, heart attack. We'd been married 42 years. I'm sorry." "Don't be. We had a good life. But you know what I regret? What, all the times I said no. No to the trip to Italy. No to the puppy he wanted. No to dancing in the kitchen. I was always worried about money, about being practical, about playing it safe." She glanced at Camille. "Safety's important, but it ain't everything." Camille's throat tightened. "What would you have done differently?" "I'd have said yes more. To mom. To mess. To being scared out of my mind and doing it anyway." They reached the forest edge. Betty pulled over. "This is as far as I go. That's wolf territory past this point." Camille got out. Betty rolled down her window. "Whatever you're going after, I hope you catch it." "Me too." Camille started walking, into the trees, into the unknown, into her choice. The forest was darker than she remembered, colder, the trail barely visible. Camille's phone had no signal, no GPS, no way to call for help. She was alone, completely. And that should have terrified her, but it didn't, because for the first time in weeks, she felt something. Not the bond, not magical compulsion, but something deeper, determination. She'd walked this path before, 6 weeks ago, being carried unconscious by Dorian. Now she walked it herself, every step a choice. An hour passed, then 2, her feet ached, her legs burned. She kept walking, because Dorian was dying, and she was the only one who could save him. If the research was right, if human choice really could break an ancient curse. If. So many variables, so much uncertainty, everything her lawyer brain hated, but she kept walking. Until she heard something. Footsteps. Behind her. Camille froze. Turned. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, hooded, carrying something that gleamed silver. A knife. The figure from the first night. The one she'd seen before passing out. He'd been following them. "Who are you?" Camille demanded, voice steadier than she felt. The figure lowered his hood. "Young man, maybe 25. Scarred face, angry eyes. You don't belong here. I'm going to the pack. The pack doesn't want you. Half-blood. He spat the word. Silas sent you. Silas is weak. He let you live. But I won't make that mistake. He raised the knife. Silver. Fatal to werewolves. Probably not great for half-bloods either. Camille backed up, her mind racing. She had no weapons, no wolf, no bond, just herself. Wait, she said. Just wait. Why do you hate me? You don't even know me. I know what you are. Contamination, weakness. I saved your pack's land, healed a 50-year feud. With human tricks. With human intelligence, which is just as valuable as strength. He lunged. Camille dodged. Barely. The knife slashed air where her throat had been. She ran, crashed through underbrush. He followed. Faster, stronger, gaining. Camille's foot caught a root. She fell. Hard. Pain exploded in her knee. The man stood over her, raised the knife. For the purity of the pack. Camille closed her eyes. This was it. Then a roar shook the trees, massive, primal. The man spun. A white wolf burst from the shadows, not fully shifted, partially. Hybrid form. The scent. Pine. Smoke. Dorian. But he was dying. How was he here? The white wolf slammed into the attacker, sent him flying. The knife spun away. The man scrambled up, ran, disappeared into the forest. The wolf turned, limped toward Camille. As it approached, it shifted, bones cracking, fur receding. Dorian collapsed beside her. Human again. Pale. Gaunt. Dying. Dorian, Camille gasped. What are you doing here? Felt you, in danger. But the bond is broken. Doesn't matter. You're mine to protect. He coughed, blood on his lips. You're dying. I know. Why did you come? Because I love you, bond or no bond, magic or no magic, I love you. Tears streamed down Camille's face. Real tears, the first since the poison. I feel it, she whispered. I feel something. Good, he smiled, that beautiful broken smile. Go back to Seattle, live, be happy. No. Camille, no, I'm not leaving. I'm not running. I'm making a choice. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. I came back for you, not because of the bond. The bond is dead. I came back because I choose you. His eyes widened. What? I choose you, Dorian, freely. No magic, no fate, just me, choosing you. The words hung in the air. For one impossible moment, nothing happened. Then, fire, blazing through her veins, not the bond, something stronger, something wholly human and utterly powerful. The curse shattered. Camille felt it break, like glass exploding inside her chest. The numbness vanished, emotions flooded back. Grief, joy, fear, love, so much love. Her wolf surged to life, different than before, not amber eyes, silver. The bond reignited, not red like before, gold. Chosen bond, stronger, permanent, real. Dorian gasped. Color returned to his face. His wounds began healing, the severed bond knitting back together. You broke the curse. We broke the curse. She kissed him, hard, desperate, real. He kissed her back, and for the first time since the poison. Camille felt whole. They made it back to the manor together, limping, exhausted, alive. The pack was gathered in the courtyard, watching, waiting. Margot stood on the steps. When she saw them, her face transformed. Joy, relief, hope. She came back, Margot whispered. The pack murmured. Dorian helped out Camille to the center of the courtyard. Every eye on them. Silas stood with the council, looking old, broken, guilty. Camille walked straight to him. The crowd went silent. You tried to kill me, she said. Yes. You're my grandfather. Yes. You exiled my mother, your own daughter. Yes. Camille stared at him. This man who'd let fear destroy everything. I should hate you. You should. But I don't. Silas looked up, shocked. What? I don't hate you because hate is just fear wearing a different mask. And I'm done with fear. She took a breath. You're my grandfather. And you made terrible choices, but I'm making a different choice. What choice? Forgiveness. The courtyard erupted, voices shouting, arguing. Margot raised her hand. Silence fell. Camille has the right to choose mercy, she said firmly. But he poisoned her, someone yelled. And she lived, and she's choosing forgiveness. That's her right. Camille turned to face the pack. Silas made his choices out of fear, but I'm making mine out of love. I choose to forgive him. I choose to give him a chance to heal, to change, to be part of this family. She looked at Silas. If you'll accept. Silas fell to his knees, weeping. I don't deserve this. No, you don't, but your family, and family gets second chances. Margot joined them, placed a hand on her son's shoulder. Get up, Silas. You have work to do. He stood, unsteady. Camille extended her hand. After a moment, he took it. I'm sorry, he whispered. Lorelei. Camille, I'm so sorry. I know. The pack watched. This impossible moment. Forgiveness, healing, choice. Dorian wrapped his arm around Camille. She leaned into him. Home, finally. Home. The council met 3 days later to finalize Camille's status. She'd passed 2 trials, failed the third, but broken an ancient curse, saved the Alpha, and chose forgiveness over vengeance. What did that mean, the council argued. Finally, Margot stood. The trials were designed to test worthiness. Camille has proven herself 10 times over. I vote to accept her as Luna, as pack member, as family. One by one, the council voted, even Silas. I vote yes, he said quietly. My granddaughter belongs here. Unanimous, Camille Morrison, Luna of the Northern Territory. The pack celebrated. Bonfire, music, dancing. Camille stood with Dorian, watching the Chwainai, the community, the life she'd chosen. Regrets, Dorian asked. None. You gave up a lot. I gave up an empty apartment and hollow victories. I gained everything that matters. He kissed her forehead. I love you. I love you too, and I choose you. Every day, I choose you. Spring came to the Northern Territory with explosion of wildflowers. The pack prepared for the annual choosing festival, a new tradition started by Camille. Young wolves could declare their mates, fated or chosen, both honored, because choice mattered. Camille stood in the memorial garden, 8 months pregnant, belly round and full. The baby kicked, strong, persistent. She smiled, placed a hand on the stone marker. Lorelei Crow Morrison, beloved daughter, mother, friend. She chose love. Hi, Mom, Camille whispered. I did it. I found home, just like you said. Footsteps behind her. Dorian approached, wrapped his arms around her from behind, rested his hands on her belly. She's restless today. Like her mother, Margot joined them, carrying a toddler, little Victor Rivera Blackwell. The families had united, celebrated together, healing complete. They're starting the ceremony, Margot said. Camille nodded. They walked to the central courtyard. The entire pack gathered, young couples standing nervously, ready to declare. Silas stood on the platform, changed, gentler. He'd spent 2 years in community service, teaching young pups, helping families, earning back trust. Welcome, he said, voice carrying, to the choosing festival, where we honor both fate and free will. He looked at Camille, smiled. My granddaughter taught me something. Fear destroys, but choice builds. The couple stepped forward, one by one, declaring their bonds. Some faded, some chosen, all celebrated. Camille watched, tears streaming, happy tears. Dorian squeezed her hand. You did this. We did this. After the ceremony, the pack shared a meal, tables laden with food, children running, laughter everywhere. Camille sat with her family, Dorian beside her, Margot across, Silas next to his mother. 4 generations, broken, healed, together. What will you name her? Margot asked, gesturing to Camille's belly. Camille smiled. Lorelei, after my mother, and Rebecca, after Dorian's first wife. Dorian's eyes filled. Are you sure? I'm sure. They both chose love. They both deserve to be remembered. He kissed her, soft, gentle, real. The baby kicked hard. Everyone laughed. As the sun set, Camille looked around. At the pack, her pack, at the family she'd chosen, the life she'd built, not with magic, not with fate, but with choice. Every single day. She chose this, and it was the most powerful thing she'd ever done. Silas approached as the party wound down. "Camille, can we talk?" They walked to the garden, sat on a bench beneath the cherry trees. "I planted these," Silas said, "when Lorelei was born. Your mother. She loved cherry blossoms." Camille looked at him, this old man, her grandfather. "Thank you for telling me that. I want to tell you everything about her, if you'll let me." "I'd like that." They sat in comfortable silence. Then Silas said, "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Probably not," he smiled sadly. "But you're teaching me something about second chances." "And what's that?" "That it's never too late. I spent 70 years believing in fate, in destiny, in rigid rules. And now I believe in my granddaughter, who chose love when she had every reason to choose hate." Camille took his hand. "We're family. That's what family does. Your mother would have loved this." "I think she does." They sat together, watching the stars. Two people, connected by blood, separated by fear, reunited by choice. And maybe that was the whole point. Maybe the prophecy wasn't about Camille destroying old fears. Maybe it was about showing everyone that fear could be destroyed, one choice at a time, one act of forgiveness, one moment of grace, until an entire pack, an entire family, an entire broken system transformed because one woman chose love every single day. Later that night, Camille and Dorian lay in bed, his hand on her belly, feeling the baby move. "Do you ever miss it?" he asked. "Your old life." Camille thought about it. The apartment, the firm, the courtroom victories. "Sometimes I miss the simplicity. Everything had clear rules. And now nothing is clear. Everything is complicated, messy." She smiled, "And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Not even a corner office. Not even." The baby kicked hard. They both laughed. "She's going to be a handful," Dorian said. "Good. The world needs more handfuls." He kissed her, long, slow, perfect. When they pulled apart, he whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" "For coming back, for choosing me, for choosing this life. Thank you for letting me choose, for not making it a cage. Always." They fell asleep tangled together, the bond humming, gold and strong and permanent, because it was chosen. And in the morning, they would wake up and choose each other again, and the next day, and the next, until choice became habit, and habit became love, and love became home. Forever, Camille had learned the truth. Home isn't where you're born or where fate puts you. Home is where you choose to stay. And this pack, this family, this beautiful, messy, chaotic life, this was home. Her mother had been right all along. Real power came from choosing. And Camille had chosen love, over fear, over control, over safety. She'd chosen Dorian, chosen the pack, chosen to forgive, chosen to stay. And that choice, that free human choice, was the most powerful magic of all in the memorial garden. Under the cherry trees, the wind carried the scent of blossoms, and if you listened closely, you could almost hear Lorelei's voice, soft, proud, loving. "You did it, baby. You found where you belong." And Camille had, not because fate demanded it, but because she chose it. Every single day, she chose it.